Let's kick this experiment off with a bang. So, what experiment is this? Well, I'm doing kind of like a try a chapter tag type thing where I took 10 popular books that I found at my library, one from each shelf. I'm reading the first chapter, and then I'm going to pick three of those 10 to read the full things of. And they're going to be facing off against 10 books chosen by y'all, my viewers. I did a live where you could see all of the books to choose from to put on that list. So I've taken y'all's answers. I'm going to read the 10 books that y'all chose. For that, I'm going to do the same process of reading the first chapter, narrowing it down to 3. So you'll be able to see kind of what my thoughts were on the books that I fully read in my weekly vlog videos as well. So this is quite an interesting experiment. I don't know how this is going to go, but the first book that I'm going to be trying is going to be Notes on an Execution. So I saw this on Books and Lala's channel, and I'm going to read a chapter and let you know what I think. So I just read the first chapter of this. It's told kind of like in second person, but also in first person. It's really interesting. So the guy is like this serial killer, or supposedly a serial killer of like 12 women, and he is on death row. So the first chapter is from his perspective, so you get to see kind of what it's like for him to be in the prison. You don't really know in the first chapter if he did it or not, or even what exactly he did, as far as like the gruesomeness, that sort of thing. Like what actually happened with this. We just know that he's on death row, and so you're getting to see the 12 hours before he's supposed to be put to death. It also has where he has some sort of connection to one of the guards, and so the guard like slips him a note at the end of the chapter. So basically, when people are on death row, sometimes they can literally be strapped down and then get pardoned, not pardoned for like their crime completely, where they're just like released, but it's like, I guess, a final appeal. And so they can have life in prison instead of being put to death. And so he's seen that with a couple of people previously. He's also talking about he doesn't know if he has the ability to love or really feel feelings deeply. He doesn't feel things the way that he reads them in books. So he doesn't know if he's capable of that. So it's the whole thing of like, okay, is he an actual sociopath? It's very interesting. So the first chapter was like 14 pages or so. So it took me a little while to get through because I am such a slow reader. But yeah, I didn't mind the writing style at all. I thought it was fine. So it is interesting to kind of see what the rest of it would be. It looks like the rest of it, as far as what I've heard in other reviews, is I think that you get to read from other women in this guy's life. I don't know if you're getting to like see the crimes committed. I don't know what's happening. So now I will read you the synopsis so we can kind of figure that out together. In the tradition of Long Bright River and the Mars Room, a gripping and atmospheric work of literary suspense that deconstructs the story of a serial killer on death row, told primarily through the eyes of the women in his life, from the best-selling author of Girl in Snow. Ansel Packer is scheduled to die in 12 hours. He knows what he's done, and now awaits execution, the same chilling fate he forced on those girls years ago. So he did do it. But Ansel doesn't want to die. He wants to be celebrated, understood. Through a kaleidoscope of women, a mother, a sister, a homicide detective, we learn the story of Ansel's life. We meet his mother, Lavender, a 17-year-old girl pushed to desperation. Hazel, twin sister to Ansel's wife. Oh, so he got married too? Inseparable since birth, forced to watch helplessly as her sister's relationship threatens to devour them all. And finally, Scaffy, the detective hot on his trail, who has devoted herself to bringing bad men to justice, but struggles to see her own life clearly. As the clock ticks down, these three women sift through the choices that culminate in tragedy, exploring the rippling fixtures that such destruction inevitably leaves in its wake. Blending breathtaking suspense with astonishing empathy, Notes on an Execution presents a chilling portrait of womanhood as it simultaneously unravels the familiar narrative of the American serial killer, interrogating our system of justice and our cultural obsession with crime stories, asking readers to consider the false promise of looking for meaning in the psyches of violent men. Yeah. So you do kind of have a little bit of empathy for him in the first chapter because we haven't actually got to see anything about the victims. So it humanizes him by opening the book with his 12-hour countdown to death. And the writing style kind of like eases you into it. So it would be interesting to continue this one. I don't really have any negative things to point out about it so far. So let's go ahead and see what I'm going to be reading next. This is kind of just the random pile that's set on the floor. So I'm literally just picking up the next book. And that is going to be what I would think would be very different, which is The 10,000 Doors of January. I think that this is a fantasy, but for all I know, it can be some kind of like historical thing. So we're about to find out, and then I'll let you know what it's about. I'm DNFing at page 10. I know y'all are probably like, what? How are you DNFing a book at page 10? Well, by the time I got to the second page, I was like, I don't know if this one's going to be for me. It's a lot of describing stuff I just don't care about yet. There's not a single line of dialogue until page 12, and then I kind of flipped further along in the chapter, and the dialogue is very sparse. So this is a very much so narrative-heavy book, and I don't like that. I like dialogue-heavy, action-packed type books, and this is just not going to be one of those. The writing itself, I thought was fine. Like, I don't have anything against this book. I think that if you like historical fiction with a magical element, that this could be for you. This is a historical fiction, so it's like you've got this older version of the girl, which I guess is like a woman narrator. I'm not actually sure. Talking about being a child and discovering a door, but then the door doesn't actually go anywhere. She wanted it to go somewhere. So I don't even know if the magical stuff is going to come into play or not. But I'm just like, it's not interesting enough for me. The character is racially ambiguous, and there is like this guy who's kind of in charge of her because he sends her dad out on all these missions, and he like sees her as exotic and all this other kind of stuff, and it's like, okay, so it's already kind of like hints at some stuff from that time period with the way people look at her because she is a darker skinned and all this other kind of stuff. I don't know if it'll be addressed in the book or not, and I also don't know anything about the author. But anyway, it says, when one enters a door, one must be brave enough to see the other side. In a sprawling mansion filled with peculiar treasures, January Scalar is a curiosity herself. As the ward of the wealthy Mr. Locke, she feels little different from the artifacts that decorate the halls, carefully maintained, largely ignored, and utterly out of place. Then she finds a strange book, a book that carries the scent of other worlds, and tells a tale of secret doors, of love, adventure, and danger. Each page turned reveals impossible truths about the world, and January discovers a story increasingly entwined with her own. Step into the world of January Scholars in Alix E. Harrow's spellbinding debut. It's just not for me. I feel like this is maybe going to be more of a literary type fantasy. And like I've said in the past, I'm just not into literary. So subjects, it says that it is fantasy fiction. But even with that, it would be a low fantasy because it's referenced real people like J.P. Morgan. It's also set in Kentucky, which is the state that I'm in, so that part was interesting. And it's in 1901, when I think of fantasy, I don't really think of low fantasy. I would lump that into paranormal instead. Um, when I'm wanting a fantasy, I'm wanting something where like they're on another planet and they've never heard of Earth at all. Like none of the people have ever heard of Earth. There's no origin of the people coming from Earth, nothing. Like that is my type of fantasy, a high fantasy. But anyway, yeah, so I'm DNFing that one. That one is not going to be one of the top three. So far, I'm still got Notes on an Execution as my number one choice. And now we will move on to the next book, which is Darling Girl. So this one should have some more fantastical elements because I'm pretty sure that this has something to do with Peter Pan. Trigger warning, I have heard in a review that this one does have SA in here. I don't know how all of that comes into play because I haven't read the book, but just know that that is in here. It is a dark story, but I guess it's time to try chapter 1. DNFing Darling Girl at 5 pages in. I don't like the writing style. It's far too distant for me. So it is third person, but it's like the camera lens view. So nothing is really being filtered through a singular character, and I just don't like it. And even though it does have dialogue, the dialogue feels very... It's not that it's unnatural, it's just kind of like... It lacks personality, if that makes sense. I don't really get a sense of the characters through the dialogue. So I don't like the writing style. So when I don't like the writing style, I'm probably not going to like the book. If I had purchased this book, I would give it more than 5 pages, but because this is a library one, I'm like, I don't like the writing style. I forced myself to read a little bit more in this one to come to the same conclusion. So I'm just like, I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to waste time because I'm a very slow reader. And yeah, so this is not going to be one of the top 3, but I will tell you what it is about. And it was a Book of the Month book. In this beautiful reimagining of J.M. Barrie's classic, one woman must take on the infamous Peter Pan, who is not the innocent adventurer the fairy tales make him out to be, to save her daughter's life. Life is looking up for Holly Darling, granddaughter of Wendy. Yes, that Wendy. She's running a successful skincare company. Her son Jack is happy and healthy, and the tragedy of her past is well behind her. Until she gets a call that her daughter, Eden, who's been in a coma for nearly a decade, has gone missing from the estate, where she's been long tucked away. And, worst of all, Holly knows who must be responsible. Peter Pan, who is not only very real, but very dangerous. Eden has a rare condition, a secret that Holly is desperate to protect, especially from Eden's half-brother Jack, who knows nothing about his sister or the crucial role she plays in his life. Holly has no one to turn to. Her mother, Jane, is the only other person in the world who knows that Peter is more than a story, but she refuses to accept that he is not the hero she's always imagined. Desperate, Holly enlists the help of Christopher Cook, a notorious ex-soldier, in hopes of rescuing Eden before she loses both her children. Darling Girl brings all the magic of the classic Peter Pan story to the present, while also exploring the dark underpinnings of fairy tales, grief, aging, sacrifice, motherhood, and just how far we will go to protect those we love. So I have read the original Peter Pan, and I actually really enjoy it. And considering the time period that it was wrote, it's very feminist. And it was just very easy to fly through. So definitely recommend the original Peter Pan. But I did not like the writing style of this, so I'm not going to be reading it. And then we move on to the next book. And surprisingly, I have not read a full-length story by this author, despite that they're super popular. And that's going to be Merry Little Meet Cute by Julie Murphy. I think that this one's going to be easy to get into because this author has previously written a lot of YA work. Now, yeah, so this is interesting because, so this one was third person. The other two were kind of like first person in an interesting way. So I'm thinking that this one's going to be dual perspective, but not quite sure about that. And it's a co-written book, and I have not read anything by the co-writer either, who is Simone. This also has a prologue. Now, the Darling Girl also had a prologue, so I read that, and I read the first couple of chapters of the other. But I would assume that this would be easy. But also, I'm looking at page number 7, and it's already taking the Lord's name in vain. So that's one thing I don't like to see in books. But it looks like the prologue is 10 pages. So I like the formatting of this. It's very easy on the eyes. So even though it's a big book, I think it would be easy to fly through just based off of the formatting. So really nice formatting. But I guess I need to give it a try and let you know what I think. And the prologue is from Teddy Ray Fletcher, so that's the guy. The prologue is 10 pages, so I don't know that I'm going to go into chapter 1, but I might. The first sentence of chapter 1 is, I think 6 bottles of flavored lube might be overkill. My goodness. I'm also ace, so like, if they get into talking about liquids and smells with sex stuff, I'm just like, I'm gonna be out. Because the person, so I know a little bit more about this one, and it's like, I guess they're filming a movie or something, and the girl is plus size, and she is in the sex industry, like in the porn industry, so I don't know. We'll see. We shall see how it goes. I think I am going to break and have some lunch, though, because I'm hungry. So I'm going to break and then continue on. It's interesting because I really don't know what my top 3 out of this 10 is going to be. It's such a wild array of stories. Okay, so I'm really liking this. I like the writing style. You're hearing from, like, the director who's wanting, to produce this film for this thing that they called Hope Flicks. I don't know if that's supposed to be a renaming of Hallmark or of Pure Flix. Which is really funny because, of course, a company like Pureflix, for example, would not want to be having movies with recognizable porn stars in them because that would be bad press. It's like the same reason why they're like, hey, like if you're a woman and you want to get into acting, if you show your body in your first film, you're probably not going to get any serious roles after that. That's definitely changing nowadays, but that was not the case several years ago. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be my number 1 pick so far. So yeah, let's see what the next book is going. Oh, I didn't even tell you what all. I mean, I did, but I didn't. So I just read the prologue, and that was enough for me to be like, yeah, this is interesting. I like the way that they found her. So what happened was the guy also runs a porn company. And so he had files on his desk with headshots and also titty shots of, of the women and stuff. And so when their lead woman drops out because of, like, she can't do it. And a lot of the other staff, I'm not gonna, like, tell you too much, but they also can't do it. So now he's like, oh, this might actually be a solution. But how it happens is that his folders get mixed between the porn stuff headshots and the one for this wholesome film. And so the new director was very set on the original person that she picked. And then when she comes across this girl with her boobs hanging out, she's like, yeah, I think that she would be great for this. Like, she's not fazed by it at all. She's like, I don't remember seeing this woman audition. But she's like, I am set on her. And then he's like, no. She's a bit edgier, more provocative stuff. And she's like, oh, but I want edgy. It'll be very good with the script. Because her girlfriend wrote the script. And so she's like, it'll be great. And then he keeps kind of like trying to talk her out of it because he doesn't want anyone to connect him to the porn industry. And so she thinks that he's doing all of that because the woman is plus size, and he's like, no, no, no. Like, she's great. So then he has to go with it. Otherwise, he'd have to tell her why he's actually resisted to it. So, yeah, I'm interested in seeing how this turns out. I think it's going to be really funny. It's going to be light, just like easy to go through. And also the woman that was with the porn industry, I can't remember what her name was. It was mentioned like twice. B. She had been asking him to like get another role or something. So she's wanting to step into a new role. And the thing is that they start filming in like 2 days. Like the actors and actresses and everything have to be there like the next day. So it's very short notice. But anyway, yeah, it seems like it's going to be super cool. Anyway, here's what it says. Co-written by the #1 New York Times bestselling author Julie Murphy and USA Today bestselling author Sierra Simone, a steamy plus-size holiday rom-com about an adult film star who was semi-accidentally cast as a lead in a family-friendly Christmas movie and the former bad boy pop star she falls in love with. B. Hobbs, aka Bianca Von Honey, has a successful career as a plus-size adult film star. With a huge following and 2 supportive moms, she couldn't ask for more. But when her favorite producer cast her to star in a Christmas movie he's making for the squeaky clean Hope Channel, B's career is about to take a more family-friendly direction. Forced to keep her work as Bianca under wraps, B quickly learns this is a task a lot easier said than done, though it all becomes worthwhile when she discovers her co-star is none other than childhood crush Nolan Shaw, an ex-boy band member in desperate need of career rehab. Nolan's promised his bulldog manager to keep it zipped up on set, and he will if it means he'll be able to provide a more stable living situation for his sister and mom. But things heat up quickly in Christmas Notch, Vermont, when Nolan recognizes his new co-star from her closed-door account. Oh yeah, he's a member. Now B and Nolan are sneaking off for quickies on set and keeping their new relationship a secret from the Hope Channel's execs. Things only get trickier when the reporter who torpedoed Nolan's singing career comes snooping around and takes an instant interest in mysterious newcomer B. And if B and Nolan can't keep their off-camera romance behind the scenes, then this merry little meet-cute might end up on the cutting room floor. Oh my gosh. That has more going on to it than I thought. I'm really excited about that. So yeah, definitely going to be on the list. Now another one that I have high hopes for, but also I haven't read from the author or really know anything about it, even though I did read the blurb at the library. I've seen people show it in videos before, but I don't really have any like connection to it yet, and that is Black Sun. So yeah, it's a fantasy. That's about all I know. And it is also the thickest puppy on this list. So slightly intimidating because I am a slow reader. And let's see how long this thing is. And it's also part of a series. So that means that if I like it, I'm kind of committing to a whole nother series, which I don't know how long it is. 454 pages. So we shall see. I did not take my lunch break because I was too curious about this. So now I actually am going to go eat lunch. And then I'm going to hop into this 5th book. Again, there's going to be 10 of these. So stick around to see how it goes. This sucker was a wild ride for chapter 1. My goodness. So it was like 10 pages. And at first I was like, I do not know what is going on here. But then it slowly started to come together by the end. And I was like, okay, I'm interested. I kind of like the writing style on this one. I like the formatting on it. It just makes it kind of easy to read through. It's definitely going to give me that high fantasy feel that I always want. So, chapter 1, the guy's mother is giving him these like brews. And the brews are supposed to make him not feel pain. And then he describes that she carved a symbol on his chest with the knife and also carved a symbol onto his back so that when he goes to his homeland, they'll know that he's one of them, because one of his parents is from the tribe that he's been living at, so they look different. So he is like lighter skinned, but he has some of his mother's features as well. So she's like, this will let them know. But then there's also a part where it's like he's becoming a god, and part of the process includes him having his eyes sewed shut so that he has to learn to develop his other senses. But his dad is like, you better not have touched a hair on my son's head, woman. Like, what are you doing in there? But the deed is already done. She's already like sewed his eyes shut and everything. And that's kind of where chapter 1 ends. Is like the dad is trying to get inside and the mom has ran off and he's just sitting there with his eyes shut. And he's also like strapped into the chair as well. I'm just like, oh my goodness. I don't think I could just sit there and let someone sew my eyes. I definitely could not do that. Y'all, it's hard for me to even let like an optometrist do the whole dilation little eye drops that they have to give me when they go test my vision. So I definitely would not be able to have my eyes closed shut. But yeah, it's very interesting. I definitely, even if this doesn't make the top 3, it is one I will keep an eye on. I would at least want to read like the first 50 pages to see if I would enjoy this or not. But yeah, it is going into the top 3 for now, but I don't know if it'll stay there. Because I've still got 5 more books to try. So who knows what this stack is going to wind up being. But so far, we have the 2 DNFs, and then we have these 3. And let's see what option number 6 is. Option number 6 is going to be The Marriage Game. Oh, I didn't read to y'all the blurb. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, Black Sun, what is this sucker about? Inspired by the civilizations of pre-Columbian Americas, woven into a tale of celestial prophecies, forbidden magic, and the crafted with unforgettable characters, Rebecca Roanhorse has created an epic fantasy adventure in the most original series debut of the decade. In the holy city of Tova, 3 lives are converging during a solar eclipse, prescribed by the sun priest as an unbalancing of the world. Meanwhile, a ship launches from a distant city bound for Tova and set to arrive on the solstice. The captain of the ship, Zyla, is a disgraced teak whose songs can calm the waters around her as easily as it can warp a man's mind. Her ship carries 1 passenger, described as harmless. The passenger, Serepio, which is the character we get in the first chapter, is a young man, blind, scarred, and cloaked in destiny. As Zyla well knows, when a man is described as harmless, he usually ends up being a villain. So yeah, like I said, the next one is going to be The Marriage Game. So I'm going to get into it. So I stopped on page 10 of this, but for a good reason. I like it. I did not need to read to page 18 to know that I liked it. So I did not finish the whole chapter. I was just like, I don't want to be here all day. I want to get through. I want to make my selections. So this is in the running. I'm not going to pick my top 3 until I'm done. So basically I have a maybe pile, and then I have my DNF not going to happen pile. So anyway, all that happened in the first chapter, as far as what I had read, is we find out, she doesn't know this, but the dad put out a letter, like an open letter, basically with the characteristics of his daughter and the characteristics of the guy that he would like to see her with, and then told them, like, if they wanted to apply to date her, to let him know, but that they had to be secretive about it because she didn't know that he had posted, to, like, find an arranged marriage for her. Also, I think that this has fat rep in it. It hasn't come out and directly said it, but based off of the letter and the description that he gave of her, and talking about, like, how she likes food and all that other kind of stuff, I'm coding her as a plus-size girl, so I'm here for that. But anyway, let's see what this is actually about. A high-stakes wager pits an aspiring entrepreneur against a ruthless CEO in this sexy romantic comedy. After her life falls apart, recruitment consultant Lila Patel returns home to her family in San Francisco, but in the eyes of her father, who runs a Michelin-starred restaurant, she could do no wrong. He would do anything to see her smile again. With the best intentions in mind, he offers her the office above the restaurant to start her new business, and creates a profile on an online dating site to find her a man. She doesn't know he's arranged a series of blind dates until the first one comes knocking on her door. As CEO of a corporate downsizing company, Sam Mehta is more used to conflict than calm. In search of a quiet new office, he finds the perfect space above a cozy Indian restaurant that smells like home. But when communication goes awry, he's forced to share his space with the owner's beautiful yet infuriating daughter, Lila, her crazy family, and a parade of hopeful suitors, all of whom threaten to disrupt his carefully ordered life. As they face off in close quarters, the sarcasm and sparks fly. But when the battle for the office becomes a battle of the heart, Sam and Lila have to decide if this is love or just a game. Sounds awesome. Oh, Locked Beautician's live is going on. I've been watching it for like 5 hours. So yeah, I'm gonna show you what the next book is after I mute. So I've muted Bree so that we can actually I just paused it. But so I've muted Bree so that I can pick another book. So let's see what we've got here. We have Mickey 7. So I'm going to be reading that. But we just had a break. So I'm going to listen for the commentary during the break. And then I'm going to hop into this. I'm also kind of hungry. I'm thinking about making myself some popcorn and melting marshmallows to mix with the popcorn. Because that sounds really yummy. But also, it's like 5 o'clock, so dinner is soon. But all I've had to eat is like a sandwich, so I'm kind of hungry. But anyway, I'm going to be reading this for the next sprint, and I'll get back to you. So it's like 8 o'clock at night now, so it's been quite a long day. I already showered and ate dinner, and I read 10 pages of Mickey 7, so I did not complete the first chapter. However, it's because it's really good. So it got to a page break, and I was like, this is a good stopping point for this one. This is, like, in my top 2 right now. So this and A Merry Little Meet Cute are definitely my winners so far, but I have 3 more books to try. So I am going to tell you what this one is about. So in the first chapter, or first scene, I guess you would say, he's fallen down a hole, and they're basically able to have new versions of the crew, but it's like the version of them that has all of their memories, and they like upload their memories every once in a while. And the thing is, though, is that it's not the same body, so it's not really the same person, even though everyone treats them as if they are and they have all those memories. So this current one is Mickey 7, meaning that he's already died 6 times to become version number 7. And they're on like this ice planet. It's super cold. He's fallen in the hole. He's like spraying his wrist, and he's pretty far down. So he doesn't have good comms. He could only send text messages at one part. He also has a girlfriend that is part of the crew as well, which was willing to come down and get him, but he thought it was too risky, so he told her not to worry about it. He would just reboot in the morning. But now he's found these, what he believes to be lava tubes, which aren't supposed to be there because it looks like there was no volcanic anything around the area where they're at. But he's like getting sweaty, but he's warming up. And that could be because he's freezing to death, or it could be because it's actually getting warmer. But anyway, he's like, the worst thing that you want to be is a double, because sometimes they'll launch the new version and the old version hasn't died yet. So if he's not able to kind of save himself, he will freeze to death. So they're already put in like military orders to go ahead and initiate Mikey number 8. And he doesn't have the comms to like tell anyone if he actually survives and finds a way out because of the distance where he's at. So I'm really interested in seeing how this goes. It is definitely the type of writing style that I like. It's got the genre thing. I like the characters. We are good with Mickey 7. So yeah, out of all of these books that I have, and there's 2 more to show you, Catherine House is one of them. Catherine House was one, when I heard people talk about it, I was like, I think I would genuinely be interested in that. A Merry Little Meet Cute, I was like, I think I would be genuinely interested in that. And then Mickey 7. So it'll be really funny if those wind up being the top 3. But anyway, so after several deaths punctuating a series of all too brief lifespans, a clone reassesses his purpose and his humanity in Edward Ashton's Mickey 7, a unique blend of thought-provoking sci-fi concepts, farcical relationship drama, and exotic body horror. Expendable, a human clone utilized for dangerous work on space exploration missions. An Expendable's personality and memories may be transferred intact to a new body if and when the current host dies. Mickey Barnes is an Expendable, now on his 7th iteration, living and dying among his fellow colonists on the near uninhabitable ice world of Niflheim. Some consider him immortal, others believe he's a soulless monstrosity. For the past 9 years, he has been deployed for hazardous assignments and subjected to experiments that test the limits of human endurance, his humanity sacrificed for the greater good. While on reconnaissance, Mickey 7 is injured and left for dead, only to be saved. Oh, why is it's giving me spoilers now? Why are you giving me some spoilers? You're giving me too much. But maybe it happens in the first chapter. I didn't finish the whole first chapter. So I'm going to give you more, but I kind of already said what's going to happen a little bit, but there's a whole nother paragraph. So I'll read it, but if you don't want to get spoiled, maybe you kind of like scroll until you see a new book cover. Anyway, while on is left for dead only to be saved by Niflheim's native species, thought to be insentient by the colonist. Returning to base, Mickey 7 meets his next generation, Mickey 8. Neither clone is really willing to recycle himself, but if anyone discovers multiple Mickeys exist, they'll both be executed, and there won't ever be a Mickey 9. Oh my gosh. Okay, this could definitely be a favorite book. Totally. But Mickey 7's premature twin isn't his only secret. He hasn't uploaded his memories in a month, leaving his clone in the dark about his near-death and close encounter with the planet's inhabitants. Mickey 7 also doesn't know how all his previous selves died, and those he remembers have left him... Mickey 7 also doesn't know how all of his previous selves died, and those he remembers have left him traumatized and mistrustful of the colony's mission, a mission that has Mickey Barnes questioning his moral and mortal existence again and again. This sounds so stinking good. Oh my goodness. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. This is right up my alley. I like sci-fi. I loved The Martian, even though it did definitely get like super sciencey and mathematical. I liked that. So yeah, I love survival stories in general, but stick one of those in space and I'm here for it. I'm so here for it. So yeah, this is probably good. I mean, it's gonna make it. I would like totally go buy this one right now. We're going to move on to the next one in the stack, which is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. So I'm guessing this one is some sort of mythology type story. I don't know that I've read any Susanna Clarke. Unless they're the same person that did... No, that person I think is the Madeline Miller that on here. I don't know. When I see this cover, for some reason, I also think of the Song of Achilles, which I did read and really enjoyed. I feel like this could have a similar tone to that. But I think that author is Madeline Miller, but I'm not positive because that's the only book that I've read by them. But it's also on here, one of the persons that liked it was Aaron Morgenstern, which was the Night Circus. So again, I could see it having kind of like a literary feel to the writing style, but be mythology based. So we're going to give the first chapter a try and see how it goes. I'm quitting at 8 pages. Okay, so this one has a very clinical approach, and it's just like, it will be like an explorer's journal. It does not feel like a story, and I don't care for that. Also, this is the author of Doctor Strange and Jonathan Morale. I think that's how you say that book, which my husband absolutely loved, and it's like over 1,000 pages, so I'm surprised that they were also able to do Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. Okay. So I was surprised they were able to do such a short book, because this one's less than 300 pages, so that's kind of cool. But, yeah, it's too clinical in the writing style for me. From the New York Times bestselling author of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, an intoxicating, hypnotic new novel set in a dreamlike alternative reality, Piranesi's house is no ordinary building. Its rooms are infinite, its corridors endless. Its walls are lined with thousands upon thousands of statues, which is pretty much all the 8 pages that I read was just water was coming in over the statues, and they were just describing the different levels. And I was like, I don't need description right now. I need dialogue and conflict. Anyway, thousands of statues, each one different from all the others. Within the labyrinth of halls, an ocean is imprisoned. Waves thunder up staircases. Rooms are flooded in an instant. But Piranesi is not afraid. He understands the tides as he understands the pattern of the labyrinth itself. He lives to explore the house. There is one other person in the house, a man called the Other, who visits Piranesi twice a week and asks for help with research into a great and secret knowledge. But as Piranesi explores, evidence emerges of another person, and a terrible truth begins to unravel, revealing a world beyond the one Piranesi has always known. For readers of Neil Gaiman's The Ocean at the End of the Lane, which I couldn't get past the first chapter of that one either, I hated his writing in that, and fans of Madeline Miller's Circe. So I was right, that is the same author as the one that did it, the Song of Achilles, which I really enjoyed, even though it was very painstakingly slow. Piranesi introduces an astonishing new world, an infinite labyrinth full of startling images and surreal beauty, haunted by the tides and the clouds. It's just not for me, so I'm DNFing that one. Which is good, because I still have 2 more books to try, and I already have... I already have 5 books in the stack to consider to be my 3. So, I already mentioned this one earlier, so we're going to go ahead and do it so that I don't spoil the final book and you have to keep watching. And that is going to be Catherine House by Elisabeth Thomas. I have heard about this one and I have read the blurb before. Pretty much what I remember is everyone that goes to Catherine House are like gifted students, so it is a dark academia. But they have like powers or unique abilities, and they have to like give up their connection to the rest of the world for like 3 years, which I really love that concept because I have a spy series that I'm going to be writing, which is a similar way. You don't have contact with the outside world while you're going through the training. They want to see if you can actually keep your mouth closed. So that's why they do that. But anyway, yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and try the first chapter. I'm stopping this one at page 13. I was right. I'm definitely going to enjoy this. I really like the writing style. It's so easy to fall into. So the first chapter is really more like a section. They don't really number it by chapters, but it's 40 pages long. And I'm like, okay, your girl here likes chapters between like 3 and 7 pages. After 10 pages, I noticed that the chapter's taking forever. So I was like, okay, we're stopping it here at this page break. But yeah, really enjoying it. So the first couple of scenes within this first section, she arrives at Catherine house. Your actual first scene is her butt naked in a bathtub after going to a party. And I was like, oh no, did something bad happen to her? But it doesn't seem like that was the case. She's just a party girl who had too much to drink. So then her roommate comes in to find her butt naked in the bathtub. And she's a little embarrassed by it, and she's like, I kind of need to use the tub. But then you find out that really she's just wanting to hide her pet snail that she brought with her on the trip. And they're not allowed to have pets, but like it's a snail. So like no one would really know that she was keeping it as a pet. But I liked that her roommate, the girl that was in the tub or whatever, is like, it's cute. I like it. We should give it a name. So I like that these kind of polar opposites. You got the party girl, and then you have the one that kind of just like showed up to the party for 1 minute and then went back to her room. It seems to be more of a rule follower or more just conservative in nature. And I'm like, I like getting to see those opposites and how they kind of instantly connect to each other despite their differences. Absolutely love that. So I think I'm going to really enjoy this one. I like the whole aspect of the story with the whole 3 years of no contact, but it's not quite no contact. So in the orientation that they received, they can earn points in order to be able to get postage stamps to mail home letters, that sort of thing. There's also a house on the mansion area, whatever, the school. There's also a house that's kind of like the reform area. So if you start failing your classes, they'll send you there. And they're like, you have pretty much complete freedom on campus. Like, you can do the whole underage drinking thing. We really don't care. But if you start failing your classes, you're going to get sent to the other building. And, like, you do not want to flunk out. So, like, ooh. And they keep talking about Catherine like it's its own entity. Kind of like in a godlike way. So I wonder if there's going to be any paranormal aspect to this. But now I'm going to tell you what it says it's actually about. A Gothic-infused debut. This is a debut. Oh my goodness. The writing is so good. Normally debuts, there's particular ways that they structure sentences where you can figure out that they're a debut. This was probably not the first book that the author wrote, but rather the first one that got published, or the first one in this genre, because it's very good. And that does not come with your first book most of the time. Unless you're like an English teacher or something where you've learned all the rules to writing before you actually start writing. I could see that. But anyway, getting on a tangent. Okay, so a Gothic-infused debut of literary suspense set within a secluded elite university and following a dangerously curious, rebellious undergraduate who uncovers a shocking secret about an elusive circle of students and the dark truth beneath her school's promise of prestige, which is so funny because, like, I could apply that to my spy book. Just take out the Gothic part. The spy book is actually like a series of 8 books. I already have the covers. They're really pretty. But anyway, tangent again. That's why I was so interested in this, because I'm like, ooh, similar premises. I want to see how they did it. Catherine House is a school of higher learning like no other, hidden deep in the woods of rural Pennsylvania. This crucible of reformist liberal arts study has produced some of the world's best minds. For those lucky few selected, tuition is free, but acceptance comes with a price. Students must give Catherine 3 years completely removed from the outside world. Family, friends, television, music, even their personal clothing must be left behind. In return, the school's promise The school promises its graduates a future of sublime power and prestige. Among this year's incoming class is Inez, this was the girl in the bathtub, who expects to trade her blurry teenage nights of parties, pills, and cruel friends for rigorous intellectual discipline, only to discover an environment of sanctioned revelry. Even the school's enigmatic director, Victoria, encourages the students to explore their minds and bodies, to find themselves and their place behind the formidable iron gates of Catherine. For Inez, the house is the closest thing to home she's ever had, but its strange protocols soon make this refuge feel like a lavish prison. And when tragedy strikes, oh no, nothing better happened to the roommate, because I really like the roommate. She's weird in the best way. Inez begins to suspect that the school might be hiding a dangerous agenda within the secretive group of students studying its most mysterious curriculum. Yeah, I'm really, really into this already. And last but not least on the docket, we have Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey. So I know this is going to be some kind of horror. I wonder if it's also going to have a little bit of comedy in here because it's pink. So that makes me think it might be like a comedic horror. And there's blood everywhere. So I'm like, if you throw in a vampire, I'm going to be like, okay. The back says home is where the heart bleeds. But I don't really know what this book is about. So I'm going to get into it. And then I'm going to tell you. I just finished chapter 1 of this. I like it. However, it may be overly descriptive, meaning that it utilizes showing with like every sentence, but when doing that, sometimes when you're not just direct and say something, you've got to like put all these emotions and these extra details into it to make the scene kind of have like all the senses explored. It can be a good thing when it's a significant chapter, but when it's literally someone walking from outside to inside the door and putting the keys in a little thing by the door, that was literally all of chapter 1. That's all she did is walked inside. Now, we know that her mother is sick. She's returning home after a long time. She hasn't really been welcome there. And the mother has replaced some steps. And she mentions that she once had something under the steps, so it may have been discovered. But if someone had discovered it, it probably would have been on the news. So I'm thinking that she murdered someone and put them under the steps when she was younger, which is why the house is bleeding. I think that's what's happening. So I get the description, but at the same time, if that carries throughout the whole story where it's like super intense that way, it's almost too much. So yeah, I think it could be interesting. I'm not opposed to like continuing to read this, but there were 10 books in this stack. So let's recap and see what the end results were of this try a chapter tag. Alright, so I've divided this up into 3 stacks. The first stack are the DNFs, the books I don't plan to continue or probably ever pick up again. If I do pick up any of these to read more, it would be Darling Girl, but I'm not really interested right now. So then we had the 10,000 Doors of January, and then last in that pile was Piranesi. The least likely that I would pick up would be this one. Those 3. Then we have the So Good So Far. It could go either way with me liking it or not liking it. And for that, we have the least likely of the pile that I would like is going to be Just Like Home. And then in the middle, we have Notes on an Execution. And then the most likely to like out of these, where I feel like I need to read a little bit more to see if it would be a favorite, is going to be Black Sun. There just wasn't not enough time passed considering how long it is. And I know that there's going to be like a 10-year hop. So I don't know how all that's going to be performed. But yeah, this was really good. um, then for my, this is a book that I would typically pick up. It's a very safe book. I'm pretty sure I would like it based off of what I read and the tropes, but it's safe. It's a safe pick. And that is going to be The Marriage Game. So those were safe. So for that reason, because this one is so safe, then my other pile are books that I don't read enough of things that are like this, but this feels more akin to like what my true style would be if I wasn't so influenced by other readers and by marketing ploys by publishing companies. All right. So we have A Merry Little Meet Cute. So y'all already know from watching some of my other videos, I am deconstructing some views that I now find to be either harmful or they just don't really serve me anymore. And so one of those has to do with like purity culture stuff. So reading about a porn star is very outside the wheelhouse. So I like to read stuff like that to kind of challenge me, to maybe lighten up on some stuff. Same thing with like reading some smutty stuff that was like, I was raised, if you do certain things, like you don't even do that when you're married. Like the only people that do that are prostitutes. And so I've already unwritten some of that in my mind, but when it comes to the porn industry, there's still a long way to go with me to be like, okay, so this book should kind of help me along with that, getting to see a character that's in that actually wants to be in the industry and not just the horror stories where people fall into that life for like having really bad past and stuff like that force them into those situations, or literally they are being abused. And I've seen so many horror stories. But anyway, this would be a positive representation of someone who enjoys working in the sex industry, and wasn't manipulated into it or human trafficked or anything like that. So this should be good. And then we have, so that will be like the most challenging perspective one, but also it's like a sweet little wholesome movie that they're making. So I think it's going to be interesting. Then, of course, we have Mickey 7. I haven't really read, I'm going to be honest, I haven't really read adult sci-fi. I've read Andy Weir. That's probably about it when it comes to adult sci-fi. So I really want to read some more. And so I've watched a lot of movies that are adult sci-fi and television shows, so I know it's my thing, but I just haven't read a lot of them. So this is definitely going to be one that I am going to want to finish. And it's short. It's not intimidating at all. And I wonder if this is a standalone. I believe it's a standalone. It might not be, but yeah, it sounds really good. The writing, really good. So yeah, I'm excited to finally do an adult sci-fi. And then we have Catherine House. This one, just some of the premise is so similar to an idea that I came up with before I ever heard about this. And that's why I wanted to check it out, because there were some similarities, but it's also very different at the same time. So yeah, I'm really excited about this one. Also, it does have like the party girl character. So again, that's different from the way I was brought up. You do kind of view things that people do as like good or bad and put them in a box and be like, oh, because you're a party girl, you're not a good girl. You can't be both. So again, challenging unwriting perspectives, and kind of tearing down the whole purity culture ideas. So yeah, I think all of these are going to be really good. So I'm hoping that all of these will be 5 stars. I think they all definitely have the potential to do so. I am a romance heavy reader, so Merry Little Meet Cute is kind of a safe bet when it comes to like 5-star material. It could be very easy. These ones, I know this one, he has a love interest, but who knows how much the romance is going to be involved in the story. it might just kind of be a brief thing and not really go into it. And then this one, I don't know if there's going to be any romance at all. But these are the 3 books out of the 10 that I tried that I think have the highest potential of being 5-star reads and not being quite as safe as The Marriage Game, which is the only reason why this one wasn't one of the 3, because it was the safest. I still really do want to read this one eventually. I do have the second book in the series, so at some point I will wind up reading this book. I also really want to read some more of this because I think it can be really good. The main reason why this one didn't become one of the 3 is simply because it's almost 500 pages. I'm a slow reader and I don't want this experiment to take forever. If I could do this in like 10 days, that would be amazing. And then I can still do some like random mood reading toward the end of the month because it is my birthday month. So we're not trying to stress myself out. This one is different from things that I normally read, but I think that I would enjoy it. It would be interesting. It might be a 3-star read, but not one that I would necessarily want to DNF. This would be similar to things that my library book club picks out, where I wind up enjoying it, but it's not something that I naturally gravitate toward. It's just outside of my wheelhouse, but I think it could be good. So yeah, these 3 books would be the most likely for me to definitely kind of like try these again at some point. And then this one's a maybe. If I saw a couple more like positive reviews about it, people talking about how much they loved it, that could definitely influence me to want to pick this one up. And I just really like the cover. But yeah, these are the 3. So I know typically in the try a chapter tags, you actually get a vlog of the person then talking about and reading the book that they chose. That is not happening in this one. This is to narrow down the options that's going to go in the vlog. So I will be reading these and talking about them, I guess, vlog style. So basically, I'm going to be talking about all the books I read during a week's amount of time. So it might be in 2 different vlogs where you get to see these mentioned. But I'm going to do the same sort of thing, this try a chapter with 10 books, with my physically owned books as well. So stay tuned for that. If you haven't yet chosen which books you would like to be part of that experiment, please go check out my live video that I did where I said, help me pick my birthday TBR. In that video, I show you my entire unread, physically owned books, and I need 10 picks out of that to go into this experiment. In that video, I said I needed a classic, but I'm not worried about that because this experiment is different than the way I thought it was going to be when I made that live. So just pick 10 books that you think you would like to see me read the first chapter and tell you what it's about, that sort of thing. And I'll get to those and do the kind of round 2 of this try a chapter with my own books. And then I'm going to read all of them and see how it goes. Is my old taste, like the things that I bought years ago, am I going to like those better? Or am I going to like kind of my new taste, the way I see myself as a current reader in books that I would gravitate toward? Or are they both going to be all 5-star books? I'm really curious to find out. I hope you're excited to follow me on this experiment, and I will see you all in the next video. If you have a prediction for which of these 3 will be my favorite, let me know down below in the comments, and I'll see you all later. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with friends. Bye!